and today we're going to be doing an episode of Rise Conspiracies. Clay actually has an interesting conspiracy to talk to us about. Go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, well, okay. So there was this guy named Stanley Meyer who, in the '90s, uh, supposedly invented a car that can run fully off of water, completely powered off of water, and he projected that it off of only 22 gallons of water he could get from New York to LA. And the mysterious thing about this is that on March 20th, 1998, he went out to dinner with potential investors who are going to make his idea a reality and possibly mass produce water powered cars. But he was at Cracker Barrel, I believe, and he took a sip of his drink and then ran out screaming, they poisoned me," holding his throat, and then he just collapsed and died. So the broader implications of this are, of course, the idea, which this has happened multiple times
Hmm.
in the past, where because
And not just
if
on
he
water-powered cars either, just cars that run more efficiently on fuel than ones do now.
well, yeah, because I can't remember the guy's name, but his he was messing with he thought there was a problem with his lawnmower, so he was configuring the engine a certain way to try to in an attempt to fix a problem, and he left his lawnmower running, and it barely had any gas left, but he noticed it kept on running for a while, so he went to sleep and then woke up in the morning and it was still running off of a really tiny amount of fuel.
Mm.
So he applied this to a car engine, and he supposedly went from somewhere in Texas, I believe, to Albuquerque, New Mexico, off of like a quarter of a tank of gas, which is
Mm.
incredible. But then he suddenly died too.
Yeah. So this obviously isn't the first time this has happened. Stanley Myers, his fuel cell, it had supposedly split the water into hydrogen and oxygen, which made it run. And I mean, 22 gallons, that's already pretty impressive. He was actually on an Ohio TV station in which he gave an interview about his car before the whole investor thing where he met the two or Belgian, sorry, they were Belgian investors in a
Yeah,
restaurant.
Belgian.
Yeah, it's later I think they found his death had something to do with high blood pressure, but I don't know, the timing just seems very odd.
Yeah, I mean, because it was he was meeting with the potential investors who could have very well within the near future after that applied his job to like larger car companies, to where pretty much everyone in the world would have a water powered car, which was which would realistically been able to happen if because he created it on his car was like significantly smaller. It was
Hmm.
more of like, it was kind of resembled a dune buggy in a
Yeah,
way,
he
but
made
still
it was a dune buggy I believe that he had,
but
or
still, I mean, if he can make it from a dune buggy, it can easily be applied to a
a full
regular vehicle that you
automobile.
see on the
Yeah.
streets every day. Yeah,
I mean, what is it? It's oxyhydrogen. Isn't that like the mixture of hydrogen and oxygen that can be used to fuel things? And I think there's actually open source schematics of oxyhydrogen engines, but no car company dare implement them, and no one dare try to patent this the
well,
idea.
like a lot of the critics, they argue that it was just a hoax
Hmm.
because it supposedly violated the first law of thermodynamics, which states that like the change in internal energy of a system is equal to the heat added to the system
Yeah.
minus the work done by the system. But they supposedly said that going by his model, which I don't think anyone besides him saw the papers, but people
Hmm.
have tried to like recreate it, and they said by going by what they've recreated that it would violate the first law of thermodynamics,
Hmm.
because like the heat and the water minus the work done by the system, possibly from water, you can't get the amount of energy required to power a car.
Yeah. It's almost that they made his death, like the death of him, made it actually people skepticize that it is true and that he could do it.
Well, if you all right, let's say like, which I think that the guy honestly probably produced a water powered car.
Mm.
I mean, I don't deny it. There's just a lot of stuff where it was just it would have been too coincidental.
Yeah.
But even if, let's say that he didn't, uh, we literally know how to split an atom and we know how to literally split an atom into its constituents, and by doing that, blowing up an entire city.
Well, yeah,
How could we not by now have made a car that can be powered by water?
and I think
It's just we've done so much more incredible stuff.
it's less can we, but more, I guess,
They don't
are
want
we
to allocate the
allowed
funds
to?
to do it.
Or yeah, are we
It's
allowed
just
to? Because,
because
the whole
ultimately,
industry makes so much, there's so much money there that there really are people who would benefit of, this never existing and keeping this under wraps and no one ever implementing it.
but but the people who would benefit would be the elitists who have so much money invested into these oil reserves and whatnot, and
Hmm.
who literally fight wars over oil that it's just like they're too far invested into it that if we were to introduce a car with that's powered by water or another alternative source or engine that could run more efficiently on oil, then that would
Hmm.
just collapse the total industry and it would be chaos.
Hmm. Like, I feel like we very well have the ability to, if not find an alternate fuel source, to make cars far more fuel efficient than they are now, possibly by modifying the carburetor to allow, to aerate the gasoline more better and, I guess, use less of it in the what is it, in combustion. But I feel like that there is a lot of oil involvement in car manufacturing to where those car companies are basically like, no, we're basically not allowed to develop this. And to me, that's really holding back the engineering industry and the engineering community to where even if, people were killed because of this, it's horrible that engineers and people and innovators would have to live in fear of their creations backfiring.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean it's just ridiculous that because ultimately the government. I mean, I know there's private firms and whatnot, but the government decides where they're going to where the research is going to be allocated,
Hmm.
and they're really taking away from like a thought that could affect billions of people in such a positive way.
Hmm.
By because if you think about like how much money we spend on gas, it's that's a big part of it too. But
Hmm.
and oil is diminishing. I mean, there's reserves that will carry us through the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're gonna have to figure out an alternative source because it's gonna. I mean,
I mean, with
we're not.
oil, the market only
Yeah,
lasts so long because you have your supply and demand. As the supply goes down, demand will go up. That'll keep us going. But these lower income people, it'll keep collecting them into cities because they can't afford to live in a suburban area or in a rural area because they have to drive to work. And if gas is so expensive, they won't be able to be in the job market unless they live inside one of these highly populated cities.
yeah, that's a good point that I didn't previously think of that because like if in the city of lower income people, they can just walk or take the subway or.
Yeah. We'll
But like
see.
the average middle class, they live on the suburbs because they can afford the gas to get into the city,
Hmm.
and in that way, it kind of creates a dependence because everyone outside of the city is dependent. I mean, even everyone, because oil goes into so many things besides cars, but cars is like the automobiles and powering automobiles is like the main sector,
Yeah.
obviously, because it requires so much oil.
Hmm.
But it really creates a dependence on one thing, which is so crucial. And taking this thing away suddenly, it creates sort of like a vacuum
Yeah.
that could be filled by water, air, or whatever. Like there's supposedly people who created air powered cars too,
Yeah.
but that kind of as a result, it kind of loosens like the ruling classes or grip on the
Hmm.
common man in a
Yeah,
way.
you're not independent. There's more dependence on them. And you look at a lot of people have arguments for holding back innovation and holding back science under the basis of morality. People have values and morals that they believe no, that's taking science too far, the whole playing God situation. But in this sense, there really is nothing moral holding it back. It's really only greed holding back this innovation. And I understand um, getting monetary gains from innovation, but when you're holding back everything else, that's when it's gone too far. Where the whole point of industry, the whole point of having a business is to make money. But once you're stopping innovation to make sure that you continue to make money, you're interfering in the market, and you kind of you kind of took one step forward, two steps back on advancement.
Yeah, innovation is such a vital aspect of a free market,
Mm.
and it's just taking away efficiency, really.
Yeah, they're
Just
leaving it
because,
stagnant.
well, because politicians, a lot of them actually have investments in oil.
Really?
Yeah,
No, I'm being sarcastic.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's commonly known, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's it doesn't take a genius to realize that it's out there. Like politicians invest in oil; it's just a thing that happens.
Mhm.
So, but if it's their logic is if it's not broken, don't fix it. If it gives them power, why would they change that?
Yeah,
They
it,
would literally gain nothing
mm,
from changing the dependence on oil.
yeah,
Of course, the
because
common man
they're
would
they're
benefit, but
looking
they
at it.
wouldn't. So
Yeah, they're looking at it from a totally objectivist point of view. They're like, what would I gain from allowing this innovation to continue, and you make have me make less money? They're not looking at how they're affecting the market and how they're affecting innovation as a whole.
yeah, and it's doing a disservice, as you mentioned earlier, to the engineers who can come up with innovative designs that would be beneficial to the vast majority of the
Mm,
populace.
yeah,
And
and
it's just
it's
taking like the
good.
oh, go ahead. It's just taking free. It's basically I know it seems like kind of a stretch, but it's really what's happening is that it's taking free thought away,
Hmm.
and it's moving thinking to where they want it to go. Like we need an atomic bomb, but we don't need uh,
Yes, I see where you're coming from.
cars. We don't need like alternative energy sources, but we need an atomic bomb because
Mm.
we want to be able to blow up, completely annihilate a city.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about the Myers fuel cell right now, but I mean the oil industry isn't the only industry that does this. The pharmaceutical industry, big pharma, is also
Oh yeah,
kind of
definitely.
has their hands dirty in this. I mean, there's there's treatments and cures that honestly, in all um, realistic circumstances, we should have by now. But the whole
Yeah,
concept of it makes more money to treat something than it does to cure it.
yeah, and I know. I mean, the obvious example here is cancer because I know it's difficult to cure in that it's such a malignant disease. But
Hmm.
if you look, like I said, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, we've we've gone to the moon, we've dissected an atom,
Hmm.
but we can't cure a disease
We created a
that's been
hadron
plaguing
collider.
humanity for hundreds of years. Yeah,
Hmm.
Hadron Collider. We've been able to achieve time travel on a molecular level. We've created antimatter in a lab, but we
Hmm.
can't cure a disease that's been responsible for so many deaths for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
of thousands of years, actually.
But all in all, it's the objectivist greed holding back industry, and not only industry but also the innovation of engineers, and really the thought and the way our youth thinks about innovation. Because if they think about that, creating weapons of war is more important than creating something that would benefit humanity, then you're obviously having a problem in your society.
Well, yeah, that's going to affect us too, since we're going to be engineering majors in college, and that with I know we've both seen this plenty of times with people who want to be engineers, but they pick a certain type of engineering, and you say, "Why'd you pick that?" Type of engineering. They say, "Oh, that's where the money's at."
Hmm.
So if there's money in nuclear engineering, you're going to go to nuclear engineering. If there's not much money in hydraulics engineering, then they're not going to do that,
Hmm.
even though it would be for the better, for the common good. It's just there's like an intrinsic disposition to go where the money is.
Yeah, I mean, petroleum engineering, I think it's number two right now, best paying majors.
Yeah, it is. It is the highest paying engineering major. It's
I
if
actually
you're going
think
to
I think
petroleum
it
engineering.
fell behind mechatronics, petroleum engineering, but I'm not
Yeah,
positive.
I mean, it possibly could have, but I think it's like the average salary for a petroleum engineer straight out of college is 120,000
Yeah.
straight out of college. But as you contrast it, if you contrast it to like mechanical, which is probably more around like 50,000.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's it's not something we're going to solve overnight. It's not something that we can solve unless everybody kind of realizes the issue and sees it, and we can stop it. But a big part of it is politics. We're going to have to, engineers are going to have to learn to play the political game if they want to make sure that innovation continues. And I guess that's kind of what me and you are doing here.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of engineers are like, oh, we don't want to get involved in politics. We just want to, design innovative creations and whatnot, and we want to earn a lot of money by with our ideas, and which is understandable, but they don't realize that engineering and politics go hand in hand, and the politicians benefit from the vast majority of engineers not realizing that.
Yeah, it's really something that we're going to have to work to solve and work to fix, and we're going to need more engineers involved in the political landscape if we're ever going to see a stop to government halt on innovation. All right, I think we're about out of time, and this has been Right Side of Campus with Right Side Conspiracies. I'm Alex, and he's Clay.